The rifle barrel pressed cold against Elias Grady's temple before he even heard the footsteps. "Where are they?" a voice snarled in the darkness. But 12 hours earlier he'd been just another lonely rancher watching the sunset, until 2 broken children appeared at his door, whispering words that would shatter his solitude forever. "We were beaten, sir. Mama said you might help." He didn't know then that opening that door would force him to choose between the ghosts he'd buried and the family he never knew. He needed. Before we dive into this story, hit that subscribe button and stay with me until the very end, because what happens next will change everything. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. 3 soft knocks. Elias Grady set down his whiskey glass, listening. Wind, probably. Had to be. Nobody came out this far anymore. Knock, knock, knock. He grabbed the rifle, leaning against the doorframe, and pulled the door open. 2 children stood in the dying light. A boy, maybe 9, dirt-streaked and hollow-eyed. A girl, barely 6, clinging to his hand. Their clothes hung in shreds. Dark bruises bloomed across the boy's jaw. The girl's lip was split-crusted with blood. "We were beaten, sir." The boy's voice cracked. "Mama said you might help." The rifle grew heavy in Elias's hands. "Who's your mama?" "Clara Evans, sir. She said you knew her. She said—" The boy's voice broke completely. "She said you were good." Clara. Sweet Clara, who'd cooked for his crew during that Montana cattle drive. 8 years back, maybe more. Widowed young, struggled to keep her farm going, but Lord, that woman could make grown men forget their troubles with just her smile. "Where is she?" The boy's face crumpled. "Mama told us to run, said run east to the mountains, run to Elias Grady." A sob escaped. "She said you'd keep us safe." The girl whimpered and pressed her face against her brother's shoulder. Elias looked past them into the gathering darkness. Nothing moved on the empty plain. "Come inside." The boy hesitated. "Are you him? Are you Elias Grady?" "I am." "Mama said you lived alone, said you didn't like people much." "Your mama was right." Elias stepped aside. "But she was also right that you'd be safe here. Now get in before you freeze." They shuffled past him, the boy keeping himself between his sister and Elias. Smart kid, protective, been through hell and still thinking of someone other than himself. Elias bolted the door, something he rarely bothered with. The cabin felt smaller with them in it. Strange. He'd lived alone for so long that even 2 small children seemed to crowd the air. "Sit." They sat, the boy pulling his sister onto his lap. She buried her face in his neck, trembling. Elias poured water into a basin and grabbed a clean cloth, one of the few he owned. "What's your name, son?" "Thomas, sir. This is Annie." "Thomas, I need to see where you're hurt. Both of you." Thomas nodded slowly and tried to shift Annie, but she clung tighter. "Annie," Thomas whispered. "Annie, it's okay. He's gonna help." The little girl shook her head violently. Elias knelt down, bringing himself to their level. Thomas's left eye was swollen, nearly shut. Cuts crisscrossed his knuckles, defensive wounds. Annie's bare feet were bleeding, torn up from running. "Annie," Elias kept his voice quiet. "I'm not gonna hurt you, I promise. I just need to clean these cuts so they don't get infected. Can you let me do that?" She peeked out at him with one eye. It was the color of Clara's, that warm brown like honey in sunlight. "You knew our mama." "I did, long time ago. She said you were kind. She said you gave her extra food when we didn't have enough." Elias swallowed hard. He didn't remember that. Didn't remember much from those days, except trying to forget. "Did she now?" Annie nodded. "She said you never asked for nothing back. Not like—" She stopped, her whole body going rigid. "Not like who, sweetheart?" Thomas cut in quickly. "Not like Mr. Danner." The name meant nothing to Elias, but the way Thomas said it, like spitting out poison, told him everything. "Who's Mr. Danner?" "Our stepfather." Thomas's voice went flat. "Mama married him 8 months ago, said we needed a man around, said the farm was too much for her alone." Elias dampened the cloth and gently took Annie's foot. She flinched but didn't pull away. He began cleaning the cuts, working carefully. "And Mr. Danner did this to you?" Thomas's jaw tightened. "He came home drunk, started yelling about supper being cold. Mama tried to calm him down, but he—" The boy's voice shook. "He hit her, hard. She fell and didn't get up right away, so he kicked her. I tried to stop him, so he beat me too. When Annie screamed, he went after her, but Mama got up and threw a pot at his head, told us to run while he was down." Elias's hands stilled on Annie's foot. Cold rage built in his chest, the kind he hadn't felt in years, the kind that made men do things they couldn't take back. "How long ago was this?" 2 days. "We walked all night, hid during the day. Mama drew us a map before we left. Said follow the river east, look for the cabin with the red door." Elias glanced at his door, faded red paint peeling at the edges. "And your mama, where was she when you left?" Thomas looked down. "On the floor. She told us not to look back. Said she'd find us, but—" His voice cracked. "There was so much blood, sir." Annie started crying softly. Elias finished with her feet and moved to Thomas, dabbing at the cuts on his face. The boy sat perfectly still, tears streaming down his cheeks, trying so hard to be brave. "Listen to me, both of you." Elias's voice was firm. "You did exactly right coming here. Your mama was smart to send you, and she's tougher than you think if she's anything like I remember." "You'll help us find her?" Thomas asked desperately. "You'll help her?" Elias stood and walked to the window, staring out into the black night. Clara, beaten, maybe dying, and these children. He turned back to them. "I need you to tell me exactly where this happened. Your farm, where is it?" "Willow Creek, about 15 miles west of here, the old Henderson place." Elias knew it. Small spread, decent water, good grazing. Henderson had died childless, left it to his sister's family. That must have been Clara. "Here's what's going to happen. You two are going to stay here tonight. Tomorrow morning I'm taking you to my neighbor Martha. She's tough as nails but got a soft spot for kids. You'll be safe there." "And you?" Thomas asked. "I'm going to find your mother." "What about Mr. Danner?" Elias's expression went cold. "If he's smart, he'll be long gone by the time I get there. And if he's not—" Elias picked up his rifle and began checking the ammunition. "Then he'll wish he was." Annie slipped off Thomas's lap and walked over to Elias. She tugged on his sleeve with small, bloody fingers. "Mr. Grady, will you really bring Mama back?" He looked down at her, this tiny, broken thing, with hope still flickering in her eyes despite everything, and felt something shift in his chest, a crack in the wall he'd built around himself. "I'll bring her back." He paused. "Or die trying." The children ate like they hadn't seen food in days, which they probably hadn't. Elias heated up the stew he'd made that morning and watched them devour it, Annie getting more on her face than in her mouth. Thomas ate methodically, never taking his eyes off the door. "When did you last sleep?" "Don't know," Thomas admitted. "We kept moving. Didn't feel safe stopping." "Well, you're safe now. There's a bed in the back room. Small, but you'll both fit." "Where will you sleep?" "Don't need much sleep these days. I'll be right here." Thomas hesitated. "Mr. Grady, why do you live alone? Mama said you used to have—" He stopped himself. "Used to have what?" The boy looked uncomfortable. "Nothing. Sorry." Elias knew what Clara had probably told them, that he used to have a family, a wife, a daughter not much older than Annie, before the fever took them both in one cruel winter, before he'd buried them on the hill behind the cabin and decided the world was better kept at arm's length. "It's all right, Thomas. Your mama knew me in a different time." "Did you change because you were sad?" The question cut deeper than any knife. "Yeah, son, I changed because I was sad." "Mama's sad too," Annie piped up. "She cries at night when she thinks we're sleeping." Elias felt that crack in his chest widen. "Well, maybe we can fix that. Maybe we can make her happy again." by getting her away from the man who hurts her, by making sure she knows she's not alone. Thomas stood up suddenly. Mr. Grady, when you go find Mama, I want to come with you. No, but I can help. You can protect your sister. Elias's voice was firm. That's your job now. I know you want to help your mama, but the best thing you can do is keep Annie safe. Can you do that? Thomas struggled with it, his hands clenching into fists. Finally, he nodded. Yes, sir. Good man. Elias showed them to the back room, his daughter's room untouched for 6 years. The bed was made with quilts his wife had sewn. A carved wooden horse sat on the small dresser, the last thing he'd made before It's Pretty. Annie climbed onto the bed. Did a little girl live here? Once, a long time ago. Where did she go? She went to heaven. Annie considered this. Is that where my papa is? In heaven? I expect so. Mama says heaven is where good people go. She says Papa's watching over us. The little girl yawned. Do you think your little girl is watching over you? Elias's throat tightened. I hope so, sweetheart. I surely hope so. Thomas helped Annie under the covers and climbed in beside her. Within minutes, exhaustion claimed them both. Elias stood in the doorway watching them sleep, two small bodies curled together, seeking warmth and comfort in each other. He pulled the door partly closed and returned to the main room. The coffee was cold now. He dumped it out and poured himself whiskey instead. Clara Evans. He remembered her more clearly now, the way she'd smiled shyly when he complimented her cooking, the way she'd talked about her children, a boy and a baby girl, with such fierce love. She'd asked him once if he had family. He'd lied and said no, unwilling to speak of the graves on the hill, and now she'd sent her children to him, trusted him with the most precious things in her world. Why, what had he ever done to earn that trust? He thought back to what Annie had said, that he'd given Clara extra food when times were tight. He didn't remember doing it, but maybe some small kindness forgotten by him had lodged in her memory as proof of his character. Strange how the smallest acts could ripple forward through time. A floorboard creaked. Thomas stood in the doorway, barefoot. Can't sleep. Keep seeing it. Keep seeing him hit her. Elias gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. The boy sat, wrapping his arms around himself. Mr. Grady, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why didn't Mama fight back more? She's strong. She could have... His voice broke. Why did she just let him do it? Elias leaned forward. Thomas, your Mama was fighting. She was fighting the only way she could. Every hit she took was one you didn't. Every time she stayed quiet instead of fighting back, she was calculating, how do I keep my children safe? How do I survive this so I can get them out? But she sent us away. Because that was her fighting back. She got you to safety. That took more courage than any punch she could have thrown. Thomas wiped his eyes roughly. I hate him. I hate him so much. I know. When I'm grown, I'm gonna... No. Elias's voice was sharp. You're not gonna let him poison your whole life with hate. You're gonna grow up good and strong and protect the people you love. That's how you win against men like him. You don't become them. How do you know I won't? Elias studied the boy's face, bruised, tear-stained, but still decent, still kind. Because you ran here carrying your sister instead of leaving her behind. Because you're sitting here worried about your mama instead of yourself. Because you're good, Thomas. And that's not something a man like Rufus Danner can beat out of you unless you let him. Thomas absorbed this, nodding slowly. Will you kill him if you have to? The question hung in the air. Elias thought about lying, about giving the boy some noble answer, about justice and mercy. But Thomas deserved the truth. If it comes down to your mama's life or his, I won't hesitate. But I'm not going there looking to kill. I'm going there to bring her home. And if he tries to stop you, Elias's eyes hardened, then he'll find out what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. They sat in silence, the only sound, the crackling of embers in the stove. Mr. Grady, thank you for letting us in, for believing us. Nothing to thank me for, son. No, sir. Mama stopped at 3 houses before she drew us the map to you. 3 houses where folks we knew lived. They all turned us away, said they didn't want to get involved, said Mama must have done something to deserve it. Rage flared hot in Elias's chest. They said that... Thomas nodded. The last one was Mr. Patterson. He used to buy eggs from us. He said Mama made her bed when she married Mr. Danner, and now she had to lie in it. Then he shut the door. Patterson. Elias committed the name to memory. Tall fellow runs cattle. Yes, sir. I'll be having a word with Mr. Patterson when this is done. Thomas managed a weak smile. Mama always said you were different, said you saw people, really saw them, not just what they could do for you. Your Mama remembers me better than I remember myself, I think. She talked about you sometimes. When things got bad with Mr. Danner, she'd tell us stories. About the cattle drive, about the men who worked hard but stayed decent. You were in those stories a lot. Elias felt something twist in his chest. All this time he'd thought himself forgotten, but Clara had remembered. Clara had held on to those memories and fed them to her children like breadcrumbs that would lead them to safety. She's a smart woman, your Mama. The smartest. Thomas hesitated. Do you think she's still alive? Elias met the boy's eyes. Yes, I do. Your Mama didn't survive losing. Your Papa didn't keep that farm running alone, didn't protect you both all this time just to give up now. She's alive, Thomas, and she's waiting for us to find her. How can you be sure? Because she sent you to me. That means she had a plan beyond just getting you to safety. She knew I'd come looking. She knew I'd bring you back to her. She's counting on that. Thomas straightened his shoulders. Then we better not let her down. No, we better not. The boy stood. I should try to sleep. Long day tomorrow. Thomas. The boy turned. You're gonna be all right. You and Annie both. I give you my word. Thomas's eyes filled with tears, but he blinked them back. I believe you, sir. After the boy left, Elias sat alone in the dark. He thought about his wife Sarah dying in their bed with fever while he held her hand, helpless. Thought of little Emma, barely 5, gasping her last breath. He'd been helpless then. Not this time. He rose before dawn. The children were still tangled together like puppies. When he checked on them, Annie's small hand fisted in Thomas's shirt. He left them sleeping. First he saddled Judge, his sturdy roan gelding, who'd been with him through 3 hard winters. Then he packed supplies, rope bandages, his rifle, the Colt revolver he kept cleaned but rarely carried. He filled his canteen and grabbed the saddlebags he used for long rides. The sun was just breaking when Thomas appeared. Annie rubbing sleep from her eyes behind him. You're leaving now. Soon as I get you 2 settled at Martha's, get your sister ready. They didn't have much to get ready, just torn clothes. Elias found an old shirt and cut it down for Annie with his knife. It hung on her like a dress, but it was clean and warm. The ride to Martha's took 30 minutes. Her ranch sat in a small valley, smoke already rising from her chimney. She was outside feeding chickens when they approached. Gray hair pulled back in a severe bun, face weathered by decades of Wyoming sun. Elias Grady, she called out. What brings you here at this ungodly hour? He dismounted, helping the children down. Need a favor, Martha. She took one look at Thomas and Annie, and her expression shifted. She walked over, knelt down, gently tilted Thomas's face to examine the bruises. Who did this? Man named Rufus Danner. Martha's jaw clenched. The Danner who works for the Cartwright spread. The same, I expect. Mean drunk, meaner sober. I heard he married some widow woman, but I didn't know. She looked at the children. These are hers. Clara Evans. You remember her? Martha's eyes widened. Sweet Clara, who used to bring preserves to the church. Social Lord have mercy. What did that monster do to her? That's what I'm going to find out, but I need someone to watch these 2 while I do. Martha stood, her hand going to Thomas's shoulder. They'll be safe here. You have my word. Thank you. Elias. Martha's voice stopped him as he started to mount up. You bring Clara back, whatever it takes. He nodded and swung into the saddle. As he turned Judge toward Willow Creek, Annie's voice called out, "Mr. Grady, you promised." He looked back at her small, desperate face. "I keep my promises, sweetheart. I'll bring your mama home." Then he spurred Judge into a gallop and headed west. The land rolled past familiar territory he'd ridden 100 times. But today, every minute mattered. Today, a woman's life hung in the balance because she'd trusted him enough to send her children to his door. Elias felt something he hadn't felt in years: purpose. Not the empty routine of ranch work, not the hollow satisfaction of another day survived. Real purpose. The kind that made a man sit straighter in his saddle. He'd buried his wife and daughter and thought that was the end of caring. Thought he'd never again feel that fierce protectiveness, that willingness to burn the world down to keep someone safe. He'd been wrong. Clara Evans had given him that back, whether she knew it or not, had handed him 2 broken children and said, "Here, prove you're still human, prove you can still do something that matters." The Henderson place, Clara's place, now came into view just after 10. Peaceful from a distance, smoke curling from the chimney, but as he got closer he saw the signs. Front door hanging open, scattered belongings in the yard, a broken chair. Elias slowed Judge to a walk, his hand moving to the rifle. He dismounted quietly, tied the horse to the fence, approached the house with careful steps. The silence was wrong. No chickens, no livestock sounds, just eerie, empty quiet. "Clara," he called out. "Clara Evans." Nothing. He stepped through the door, rifle raised. The inside told the story Thomas's words had started. Overturned table, shattered dishes, dark stains on the wooden floor that could only be blood, but no Clara. He searched quickly: 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, a root cellar. Nothing. No body, which meant what? That she'd crawled away, that Danner had taken her somewhere. Elias went back outside and began circling the property. He found tracks, boot prints larger than Clara's would be, heading east toward the river. He found smaller tracks, 2 bare feet, children's tracks, running. And then he found something else: blood drops, leading away from the house. Not a lot, but enough to follow. Heading not east with the children, but north toward the tree line. Elias followed the trail, his gut tight with fear. It led into the woods through thick undergrowth. He moved carefully, watching for any sign. A flash of fabric caught his eye. Blue gingham, torn and muddy, caught on a bush. "Clara," he shouted. "Clara, it's Elias Grady. Thomas and Annie sent me—" A sound, faint, like a wounded animal trying to hide. He pushed through the brush and found her. She was tucked beneath an overhang of roots, so still he almost missed her. Her dress was torn and bloody. Her face was turned away, but he could see the dark bruises, the swelling. "Clara." He knelt down softly. "It's me. It's Elias. I've got your children. They're safe." She turned her head slowly. What he saw made his vision go red. Both eyes blackened, lip split, cheek laid open, and when she tried to speak, he saw blood on her teeth. "Elias." The word came out broken. "The children, safe, with Martha. They're waiting for you." Tears spilled down her ruined face. I thought he'd find them. I thought—" "Shh, he didn't. You got them out. You saved them." Can't move. Something's wrong, inside." She gestured weakly to her ribs. Elias's jaw clenched. Broken ribs. Maybe worse. "Elias," her hand found his. "Promise me. If I don't promise me, you'll take care of them. You're not dying today, Clara Evans. Promise me." He gripped her hand. "I promise, but it's not coming to that. I'm getting you out of here. Rufus, he'll come back. He always comes back. Let him." Something in his voice made her focus on him through the pain. "What are you going to do?" "Whatever needs doing." Don't get yourself killed over me." Not planning on it. He stood surveying the situation. He couldn't carry her through the woods, too rough, too far. He'd have to bring Judge through, make a travois. A twig snapped behind him. Elias spun, rifle coming up. 3 men stood there, The one in front was big, mean-looking, with a face like a bulldog and whiskey on his breath even from 10 feet away. Rufus Danner. Well now, Danner's voice was thick with malice. Looks like the bitch called for help after all. The two men with him, ranch hands by the look of them, spread out slightly hands near their guns. Elias didn't lower his rifle. Rufus Danner. That's right, and you're trespassing on my property. Your property. Elias's voice was ice. This is the Henderson place, Clara's place. You got no claim here. Got a marriage certificate says different, and that means the woman's mine too. So why don't you step aside and let me collect what belongs to me? Not gonna happen. Danner laughed ugly and harsh. You really want to die over some used-up widow and her brats? Elias's finger moved to the trigger. Only one dying here today is the man who beats women and children. Big talk from one man facing three. Won't need more than one bullet. The words hung in the air. Danner's smile faltered slightly. You know who I work for. The Cartwrights own half this county. They won't take kindly to you killing their foreman. Then they can file a complaint with my corpse. One of the ranch hands shifted nervously. Boss, maybe we should... Shut up, Danner snapped. Then to Elias, last chance, walk away. Forget you saw anything, or we put you in the ground right next to her. Elias's mind raced, calculating. 3 men, all armed. Danner was drunk, that made him unpredictable but slow. The ranch hand on the left kept glancing at Clara. He had a conscience maybe. The one on the right looked mean enough, but young, inexperienced. Behind him, Clara made a small sound. A whimper of pain. That sound decided it. Here's what's going to happen. Elias's voice was cold and steady. I'm going to take Clara out of here. You're going to let me, and then you're going to disappear. Leave this county, leave this state, because if I ever see you again, you'll what? Danner took a step forward. You'll shoot an unarmed man. You're not unarmed. You've got 2 armed men behind you. That's armed enough for me. Your funeral, old man. Danner's hand moved toward his hip. Everything happened fast. Danner went for his gun. Elias fired. The bullet caught Danner in the shoulder, spinning him around. The ranch hand to the left drew, but Elias was already working the rifle bolt. He fired again, intentionally wide, kicking up dirt at the man's feet. Next one, center mass. Both ranch hands froze, hands up, guns half drawn. Danner was on the ground, clutching his bleeding shoulder, screaming obscenities. Elias kept the rifle trained on the ranch hands. Get him up, get him out of here. And if any of you come back, I won't be aiming for shoulders. They scrambled to obey, hauling Danner to his feet. He was still cursing, still threatening, but there was fear in his eyes now. Real fear. This isn't over, Danner screamed as they dragged him away. You're a dead man. You hear me, dead? Elias waited until they were out of sight, then lowered the rifle. His hands were shaking from adrenaline, from rage, from the sheer relief of not having to kill a man today. But he knew the truth. This wasn't over. Men like Danner didn't slink away with their tails between their legs. They nursed their wounds and their pride, and they came back meaner than before. He turned back to Clara. She was staring at him with something like awe. You shot him. Should have killed him. Elias's voice was grim, but that would have brought law trouble neither of us needs. He'll come back. I know. Elias knelt beside her, which is why we need to move fast. Get you somewhere safe before he licks his wounds and comes looking for revenge. I can't walk. Then I'll carry you. Elias, you can't carry me 15 miles. Watch me. He slipped his arms under her as gently as he could, but she still gasped in pain. Broken ribs, definitely. Maybe internal bleeding. He needed to get her to a doctor, but the nearest one was in Casper, 20 miles past Martha's place. The children. Clara's voice was barely a whisper. I need to see them. You will. Soon as we get you patched up. No, now, please, I need to know they're real, that they're safe, that I didn't, her voice broke, that I didn't dream it all. Elias understood, a mother's desperate need to see her babies with her own eyes. All right, Clara, I'll take you to them." He carried her through the woods, every step careful. She bit her lip to keep from crying out, but he could feel her trembling with pain. When they reached Judge, he managed to lift her into the saddle, then climbed up behind her, holding her steady against his chest. The ride to Martha's was the longest 30 minutes of his life. Clara drifted in and out of consciousness, her breathing shallow and ragged. Elias kept talking to her, kept her focused. "Stay with me, Clara. Think about Thomas and Annie. Think about seeing their faces. Hurts. I know, but you're strong. Strongest woman I've ever known. Sending your babies away to save them. Hiding in the woods for 2 days, waiting for help. That's strength. Real strength. I didn't know if you'd come. I came." "Why?" The question caught him off guard. "Because you asked." "But you don't even know me, not really." Elias thought about that. She was right. 8 years ago, she'd been just another woman cooking for his crew. He'd barely spoken 2 words to her beyond complimenting her food. But she'd seen something in him, something he'd thought was long dead. "Maybe not, but those children of yours, they know you. And the way they talked about you, the way they looked when they said your name, that told me everything I needed to know." Clara's hand found his arm, gripping weakly. "Thank you." "Save your strength." Martha's ranch appeared ahead. Elias called out, and Martha came running, her face going pale when she saw Clara. "Sweet Jesus. She needs a doctor. Closest one's in Casper." "I know, but first, the children." Clara's voice was stronger now. "Please." Martha understood immediately. She turned and called into the house. "Thomas, Annie, come out here." The door flew open. Thomas appeared first, Annie right behind him. They froze, seeing their mother in Elias's arms. "Mama," Thomas's voice cracked. "Baby." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "My babies." They ran to her. Elias lowered Clara carefully so the children could reach her. They clung to her sobbing, and she wrapped her arms around them, despite the pain holding them like she'd never let go. "You're alive." Thomas kept saying it over and over. "You're alive, Mama. You're alive." "I'm alive, baby. I'm here. I'm here." Annie was crying too hard to speak, her small body shaking with sobs. Elias stepped back, giving them space. Martha stood beside him. "That man did this to her." "Yeah." "He dead." "No." "Shot him in the shoulder. Ran him off." Martha's jaw clenched. "Should have killed him." "Probably, but I was more concerned with getting Clara out alive." "He'll come back, Elias. Men like that always do." "I know. So what are you going to do about it?" Elias watched Clara holding her children, watched the way Thomas kept touching her face like he couldn't believe she was real, watched Annie burrow into her mother's arms. "Whatever I have to." Martha nodded slowly. "You're gonna need help." "Maybe." "Not maybe, definitely. Danner works for the Cartwrights. They're not gonna take kindly to you shooting their foreman, justified or not. They've got money and influence. You've got," she gestured at him, "stubbornness and a good aim. It'll be enough." "For what?" "Getting yourself killed." Elias met her eyes. "For keeping them safe. That's all that matters now." Martha studied him for a long moment, then sighed. "You've changed, Elias. First time in 6 years I've seen you care about something besides your own misery. Maybe I was tired of being miserable. Or maybe you just needed a reason not to be." She was right, but Elias didn't want to examine it too closely. Not yet. Not while Clara was still bleeding and Danner was still out there wounded and angry. "Can you watch them while I take Clara to Casper?" "Of course, but Elias, she's in bad shape. That's a long ride. I'll make it fast." "Not too fast. She's got broken ribs, maybe worse. You jostle her too much, you could kill her yourself." Elias nodded. He walked back to Clara and the children. "Clara, I need to take you to a doctor now." She looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. "Not yet, please. Just a few more minutes." He understood. This might be all she got. If the internal bleeding was bad, if infection set in, 5 minutes. That's all I can give you. She nodded and turned back to her children, whispering to them, touching their faces, drinking in the sight of them like water in the desert. Elias walked away to give them privacy. Martha followed. What really happened out there? What do you think happened? I found her half dead in the woods. Danner showed up with 2 of his boys. I shot him before he could finish what he started. And the boys, let them go. They didn't seem too eager to die for Danner's pride. Smart. But Danner, he's not smart. He's mean and he's stupid, and that's a dangerous combination. I know. So when he comes back, and he will come back, what then? Elias was quiet for a moment. He thought about Clara's broken body, about Thomas's bruised face, about little Annie's split lip and bleeding feet. Then I finish it. Martha nodded. You'll have help, me for one. And once word gets out about what Danner did, there'll be others. Clara's got friends in this county. Real friends, not the kind who turn her away when she needs them most. Patterson turned her away. Martha's eyes flashed. Did he now? According to Thomas. Told Clara she made her bed now, she had to lie in it. I'll be having words with Patterson myself. Get in line. The 5 minutes passed too quickly. Elias helped Clara back onto Judge, her children clinging to her hands, until the last possible moment. Be good for Miss Martha. Clara's voice was weak but firm. Mind your manners, and don't worry about me. I'll be back soon. Promise, Mama. Annie's voice was small and scared. Clara looked at Elias, a question in her eyes. He gave a slight nod. I promise, baby, I promise. Elias swung up behind Clara, holding her carefully. As they rode away, he heard Annie crying and Thomas trying to comfort her, his young voice cracking with the effort. The ride to Casper was brutal. Clara faded in and out sometimes, lucid, sometimes delirious. She talked about her first husband, about the farm, about the early days with Danner before he showed his true nature. I should have known. She mumbled at one point. I should have seen it, the way he drank, the way he talked about women. But I was lonely and scared, and I thought the children needed a father. Shh. Save your strength. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I brought this down on you. Clara, you didn't bring anything down on me. You gave me something. What? A reason. She was quiet for a moment. Then, Elias, if I don't make it, you're going to make it. But if I don't, you'll keep your promise, so you'll take care of them. He thought about his empty cabin, his solitary life, the graves on the hill behind his property. He thought about Thomas asking him why people changed, about Annie asking if his daughter was watching over him. He thought about the last 6 years wrapped in grief and loneliness, like a burial shroud. I'll keep my promise. His voice was rough. But you're going to make it, Clara. You hear me? You're going to make it because those children need their mother. They don't need another broken old man trying to figure out how to love again. They need you. You're not broken. Yes, I am. No. She reached up her hand, finding his face. You're healing. I can see it. I saw it the moment you opened your door to my babies. Elias didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know if it was true or just the fever talking. They reached Casper as the sun was setting. The doctor, a gruff man named Patterson, no relation to the egg-buying coward, thankfully took one look at Clara and shook his head. She should have been here hours ago. I got here as fast as I could. Might not be fast enough. Get her inside. Elias carried Clara into the surgery. The doctor shooed him out, but not before Elias saw the extent of the damage. Bruises everywhere, welts from what looked like a belt, burns on her arms, probably from Danner's cigar. He'd shot the man in the shoulder. He should have killed him. Elias sat in the waiting room, his rifle across his knees, and waited. Hours passed. Night fell. He dozed fitfully, jerking awake at every sound. Finally, near midnight, the doctor emerged. She'll live. Elias's breath left him in a rush. You're sure? As sure as I can be. 3 broken ribs, severe bruising, minor internal bleeding that seems to have stopped on its own. She's tough, I'll give her that. but she needs rest, weeks of it, maybe months. Can she travel? Not for a while. I want her here where I can watch her, make sure infection doesn't set in. How long? A week at least, maybe 2. Elias nodded. A week or 2. That gave Danner time to heal, time to plan, time to come back with reinforcements. Can I see her? She's sleeping, but yes, just don't wake her. Elias went in quietly. Clara lay in the bed, her face cleaned of blood, but still swollen and bruised. She looked small, fragile, nothing like the strong woman who'd sent her children running through the night to save them. He sat in the chair beside the bed and watched her breathe. In, out, each breath a small miracle. I've got you, he said softly, knowing she couldn't hear him. I've got you, and I've got them, and I'll be damned if I let anything happen to any of you. It was a promise, to her, to Thomas and Annie, to himself, to the man he used to be before grief had hollowed him out. Elias Grady had been dead for 6 years, walking around in a living man's shell, but maybe, just maybe, he was starting to come back to life. And God help Rufus Danner when he did. Dawn broke cold and gray over Casper. Elias jerked awake in the chair beside Clara's bed, his neck stiff, his hand instinctively reaching for the rifle that wasn't there. He'd left it propped against the wall when the nurse insisted no weapons in the sick room. Clara was awake, watching him. How long have you been sitting there? Her voice was rough, barely above a whisper, but it was steady, stronger than last night. Not long, he lied. Liar. A ghost of a smile touched her swollen lips. You've been here all night. I woke up once and saw you. Thought I was dreaming. You need anything, Water, the doctor. I need to know about my children. Are they really safe, or did I dream that too? They're safe, with Martha. I saw them with my own eyes before I brought you here. Clara closed her eyes, tears leaking from the corners. Thank God, thank God. Elias stood, his joints protesting. He poured water from the pitcher on the side table and helped her drink. She managed a few sips before pulling away. Rufus shot him in the shoulder, ran him off with his boys. You should have killed him. Probably. He'll come back, Elias. You don't know him like I do. He'll come back, and he'll bring others, and he'll... She started coughing, pain lancing across her face. Easy, don't talk, just rest. Can't rest, not until I know they're protected. They are protected, I'm protecting them. She grabbed his hand, her grip surprisingly strong. Why are you doing this? You barely know us. You could walk away right now and nobody would blame you. Elias looked down at their joined hands. Hers was small, scarred from years of hard work. His was calloused, marked by a different kind of labor, both broken in their own ways. Your boy asked me something last night, asked me why people change. What did you tell him? Told him I changed because I was sad. Clara's eyes searched his face. And now I'm changing because I'm tired of being sad. She squeezed his hand. The children, Thomas told me about your daughter, about the room. Elias pulled his hand away, standing abruptly. That was a long time ago. But it still hurts. Everything hurts, Clara. That's just living. No. Her voice was firm despite the pain. That's just surviving. There's a difference. Before he could respond, the doctor walked in, all business and efficiency. Good, you're awake. Let's take a look at those ribs. Elias stepped into the hallway while the doctor examined her. He leaned against the wall, exhaustion pulling at him. He hadn't slept more than 2 hours in the past 3 days. Hadn't eaten a full meal either. His body was running on pure, stubborn will. The door opened and the doctor emerged, wiping his hands on a cloth. She's healing. Faster than I expected, actually. The woman's got an iron constitution. When can she travel? I told you at least a week. Doctor, I need her out of here sooner than that. The man who did this to her isn't going to wait a week to come looking. The doctor's expression hardened. You think he'd come here to my surgery? I think he's mean enough and stupid enough to try anything. And I can't protect her properly while she's laid up here. I need to get her somewhere I can defend. The doctor considered this. 3 days. That's the absolute soonest I'd risk moving her. And even then, it needs to be gentle. A wagon, not a horse. I'll arrange it. Elias spent the next hour making preparations. He bought a wagon from a farmer who owed him a favor from years back, loaded it with blankets and straw to cushion the ride. He sent word to Martha through a rider heading west. Clara was alive. They'd be back in 3 days. Keep the children safe. Then he went to the telegraph office and sent another message. This one to the Cartwright Ranch. Your foreman beats women and children. He comes near the Evans family again, I'll kill him. Consider this your only warning. Elias Grady. Let them chew on that. He was walking back to the surgery when he spotted them. 3 men asking questions at the general store. One of them matched the description Thomas had given of Danner's ranch hands. Elias ducked into an alley and circled around, coming up behind them. He caught the tail end of their conversation. Said she was brought here 2 days ago, half dead. Boss wants to know if she's gonna make it. Why, so he can finish the job, probably. Man's been in a foul mood since that bastard shot him. Can't work, can't drink proper with that shoulder. Just sits there stewing. Elias stepped out of the alley, his hand resting on the Colt at his hip. You boys looking for someone? They spun around. The one in front, the nervous one from the woods, went pale. You. Me. Elias kept his voice calm. Now I'm going to guess Danner sent you to find out about Clara. Here's what you can tell him. She's alive, she's healing, and she's under my protection. If he wants to try again, he knows where to find me. The one on the right, the young mean one, stepped forward. You got lucky in those woods, old man. 3 against 1, you shouldn't have walked away. But I did. And your friend there, Elias nodded at the nervous one. He's smart enough to know why. Question is, are you? The young one's hand moved toward his gun. Don't. The nervous one grabbed his arm. Just don't. This ain't worth dying over. But boss said, I don't care what boss said. I ain't getting killed because Danner can't keep his fists to himself. The young one shook him off, but didn't draw. Smart. Stupid would have gotten him killed. You tell Danner what I said. Elias's voice was ice. And you tell him something else. Tell him if I see any of you near the Evans family again, any of you, I won't aim for shoulders next time. They backed away, the nervous one pulling the younger one with him. The third man hadn't said a word, just watched with calculating eyes. That one was dangerous. The quiet ones always were. Elias waited until they were out of sight, then headed back to the surgery. His hands were shaking again, not from fear, from rage, from the knowledge that this wasn't over, that Danner was already making moves, already planning. 3 days. He just needed 3 days to get Clara strong enough to move. He found her trying to sit up when he returned, the nurse scolding her. Mrs. Evans, you need to stay still. I need to see my children. Clara's voice was stronger now, but pain etched every word. I need to hold them. I need... Clara. Elias walked over. 3 days, that's all. 3 days, and I'll take you to them. 3 days. She looked at the nurse, then back at him. The doctor said a week. I convinced him otherwise. How? Told him the truth. That keeping you here makes you a target. Her face paled. He's looking for me. His men are. Just saw 3 of them in town asking questions. The nurse gasped. We should notify the sheriff. Sheriff's in Cartwright's pocket. Elias cut her off. He won't help, might even hinder. Clara slumped back against the pillows. I've brought this on you, on everyone. I should have just what stayed and let him kill you, let him beat your children until they stopped moving. Don't talk foolish. But now you're in danger. Martha's in danger. The children are safer with me protecting them than they ever were with Danner controlling you. Now rest. Build your strength. Because in 3 days we're leaving and you need to be ready. She looked at him for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. You're different from how I remembered. How's that? Harder, sadder, but... She paused. Kinder too, somehow, like you forgot how to be kind and you're having to relearn it. Elias didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know if it was true or just the fever talking again. Get some rest, Clara. The next 2 days crawled by. Elias split his time between watching over Clara and keeping an eye out for Danner's men. They didn't show themselves again, but he could feel them, watching, waiting. Clara grew stronger each day. By the second day, she could sit up without gasping. By the third, she could stand for short periods, though the pain was still severe. The doctor checked her one last time before they left. "You're a fool for moving her this soon." "Probably. And she's a fool for letting you." "Definitely." Clara managed a weak smile. "But we're alive fools, and that's something." The doctor shook his head, but helped them to the wagon. Elias had lined it with every blanket and pillow he could find. It still looked like a poor substitute for a proper bed, but it would have to do. He lifted Clara as gently as he could. She bit back a cry, but didn't protest. Once she was settled, he climbed up front and took the reins. "Ready?" "No, but let's go anyway." The wagon rolled out of Casper just after dawn. Elias kept the pace slow, every bump and rut sending jolts of pain through Clara despite the cushioning. She bore it in silence, her hands gripping the side of the wagon until her knuckles went white. They were an hour out when Elias spotted the rider, coming fast from the south, alone. Elias's hand went to the rifle beside him, but as the rider got closer, he recognized the horse. Martha's bay mare. The rider pulled up beside them. It was Martha's oldest boy, Jack, breathing hard. "Mr. Grady, Ma sent me. Said you need to know." "Know what?" "Danner. He showed up at our place yesterday with 6 men, wanted the children." Clara made a sound like a wounded animal. "Are they?" Elias couldn't finish the question. "They're safe. Ma held them off with a shotgun. Told Danner she'd blow a hole in him big enough to drive a wagon through if he didn't get off her property. He backed down, but—" Jack swallowed hard. "He said he'd be back. Said next time he'd bring the sheriff and a court order." "Court order for what?" "Says he's their legal guardian. Says as Clara's husband the children belong to him." Elias felt ice in his veins. "He's not their father." "Don't matter. Law says a husband has rights to his wife's children, especially if the wife is—" Jack glanced at Clara. "Incapacitated." "I'm not incapacitated." Clara struggled to sit up. "I'm right here. I'm alive. The children are mine." "I know that, ma'am, but Danner's got a lawyer, got the Cartwrights backing him. He's making a legal play." Elias's mind raced. A legal play. That was smart. Smarter than he'd given Danner credit for. If the sheriff showed up with a court order, Martha couldn't refuse. And once Danner had the children, how long do we have? Ma says maybe 2 days before the paperwork goes through. Maybe less. 2 days. They were still 8 hours from Martha's place, and Clara could barely sit up, let alone stand before a judge. "Jack, ride back. Tell your ma to take the children and go. Take them somewhere Danner can't find them. Where? I don't care. Another county, another state if she has to. Just get them gone." Jack nodded and wheeled his horse around, but Clara grabbed Elias's arm. No, I need to see them. I need—" "Clara, if Danner gets his hands on them, then we stop him." Her eyes were fierce despite the pain. "We stop him legally. We fight him in court." "You can barely stand. You think any judge is going to—" "I'll stand. I'll walk. I'll do whatever I have to do." She gripped his arm tighter. "Elias, if we run, we'll be running forever. He'll never stop looking. Never stop hunting. But if we face him now, if we show the judge what he did, if we make him answer for it, Clara, the judge, is probably in Cartwright's pocket too. Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe there's still some justice left in this county." She looked at him with desperate hope. "Please, let me try. Let me fight for my children the right way." Elias wanted to say no, wanted to tell her that the right way didn't work for people like them, that the law protected men like Danner and the Cartwrights, not broken women and orphaned children. But looking at her face, at the fierce determination burning through the pain, "All right," he turned to Jack. "Tell your ma to hold tight. We're coming, and we're bringing a fight with us." Jack rode off, and Elias snapped the reins, urging the horses faster. Every bump made Clara gasp, but she didn't tell him to slow down. She just held on, her jaw, clenched eyes fixed on the horizon. "Elias, yeah, if this doesn't work, If the judge sides with Danner, it'll work, but if it doesn't, promise me you'll take them. Promise me you'll get them out. He glanced back at her. I already promised you that. I know, but I need to hear it again. Need to know that no matter what happens to me, they'll be safe. They'll be safe, Clara. I give you my word. She nodded and leaned back, closing her eyes against the pane. They reached Martha's place just before sunset. The house looked like a fortress, shutters closed, doors barred. Martha came out with a shotgun when she heard the wagon relaxing, only when she saw who it was. Thank God, I was starting to think. She stopped when she saw Clara. Lord have mercy, child, you look half dead. Feel half dead. Clara tried to smile. But I'm here. Where are my babies? Inside. Safe. But Elias, we need to talk. Later. First let her see the children. Martha helped Elias carry Clara inside. The moment they crossed the threshold, Thomas and Annie came running. Mama. They crashed into her, careful of her injuries, but desperate to touch her to prove she was real. Clara wrapped her arms around them, tears streaming down her face. My babies, my sweet babies. You're really okay. Thomas pulled back to look at her. You're really gonna be okay. I'm okay, sweetheart. I'm here. I'm not leaving you again. Annie burrowed into her mother's arms, her small body shaking with sobs. I was scared, Mama. I was so scared. I know, baby, I know, but we're together now, all of us. Elias stepped back, giving them space. Martha pulled him aside. What's the plan? We fight. Clara wants to face him in court. Martha's eyebrows shot up. She can barely walk. I know. And the judge? I know that too. So this is suicide. Maybe, but it's her choice. Martha studied him. You've changed, Elias. So people keep telling me. No, I mean it. 6 years you've been hiding on that ranch, dead to the world. Now you're ready to walk into a courtroom and take on the Cartwrights. That's not the Elias Grady I know. Maybe you didn't know me as well as you thought. Maybe, she glanced at Clara and the children, or maybe you just needed something worth fighting for. That night, they planned. Clara, despite her exhaustion, refused to rest until they'd worked out every detail. The hearing's set for tomorrow afternoon, Martha said. Judge Blackwell presiding. Blackwell, Elias frowned. He's fair, isn't he? Used to be, before the Cartwrights started lining his pockets. Now, she shrugged. Who knows? We need evidence. Clara's voice was weak but determined. Evidence of what Danner did. You're the evidence, Elias pointed out. Your face, your injuries. That's not enough. Danner will claim I provoked him, that I was hysterical, out of control. The law gives husbands the right to discipline their wives. Discipline? Martha spat the word. That's not discipline, that's attempted murder. I know that, you know that, but the law, Clara's voice broke, the law doesn't always see it that way. Thomas, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner, spoke up. What if I testified, told them what I saw? No. Clara's response was immediate. Absolutely not. I won't put you through that. But Mama, no, Thomas, you're not standing in front of a judge and reliving that night. You're not. She stopped, overcome with emotion. Elias knelt down beside the boy. Your Mama's right. This isn't your burden to carry. But I want to help. You already did. You got your sister to safety. You told me where to find your Mama. That was enough. Thomas's eyes filled with tears. It doesn't feel like enough. I know, son, but sometimes doing enough has to be enough. The boy nodded, but Elias could see the guilt eating at him. The same guilt Elias had carried for 6 years, wondering if there was something more he could have done to save his wife and daughter. After the children were asleep, Martha, Elias, and Clara sat around the kitchen table. We need a different strategy, Martha said. Something that doesn't rely on the judge's goodwill. Like what? Clara asked. Like making Danner confess. Elias leaned forward. How? I don't know yet, but the man's got a temper. We saw that. What if we could provoke him, get him to show his true nature in front of the judge? That's risky, Elias said. If it backfires, we're no worse off than we are now. Martha met his eyes. Elias, you know as well as I do that Clara's testimony won't be enough. Not against Danner's lawyers and the Cartwright money. We need something bigger. Clara spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. What if I dropped the charges? They both stared at her. What? What if I tell the judge I want to drop everything, that I forgive Danner, that I want to go back to him? Clara, you can't be serious. I'm not going back to him, but if I say I am, if I convince Danner that I'm broken enough to submit, he'll let his guard down. He'll say something, do something that reveals who he really is. Elias shook his head. That's too dangerous. If the judge believes you, then you step in. You tell the judge you have concerns, that you think I'm being coerced. Force Danner to react. Martha was nodding slowly. It could work. Danner's pride won't let him accept a wife who's too broken. He'll want to prove he's still in control. Make some threat, some display of dominance. And we'll have witnesses. Clara finished. The judge, the whole courtroom. Elias stood abruptly pacing. This is insane. You're talking about painting a target on your back. The target's already there, Elias. At least this way we control when and where he takes the shot. He wanted to argue, wanted to tell them both they were crazy. But looking at Clara's face, at the determination burning through the exhaustion, all right. But if this goes wrong, if he makes a move toward you, you'll be there. Clara's voice was soft. I know you will. The next morning dawned cold and clear. Clara insisted on dressing properly, though every movement cost her. Martha helped her into a simple dress, brushed her hair to hide the worst of the bruises. You sure about this? Martha asked. No, but I'm doing it anyway. The children clung to her before they left, sensing something was wrong. Where are you going, Mama? Annie's voice was small and scared. Just to town, baby. To talk to some people. I'll be back soon. Promise? Clara looked at Elias over her daughter's head, a question in her eyes. He gave a slight nod. I promise. The courthouse was a small stone building in the center of town. A crowd had already gathered. Word traveled fast in small counties, especially when it involved the Cartwrights. Danner was there, his arm in a sling, surrounded by 3 lawyers in expensive suits. When he saw Clara, something ugly crossed his face. Triumph, maybe, or hunger. Well, look what crawled back. Elias stepped between them. Touch her, and I'll break the other arm. You threatening me in front of witnesses, Grady? That's not a threat. That's a promise. One of the lawyers stepped forward. Gentlemen, please, this is a court of law. Let's conduct ourselves accordingly. They filed into the courtroom. Judge Blackwell was already seated, a heavy-set man with shrewd eyes and a reputation that depended on who was telling the story. All rise for the Honorable Judge Blackwell. Everyone stood. The judge surveyed the room, his gaze lingering on Clara's bruised face. Be seated. Now I understand we're here regarding a domestic dispute between Mr. Rufus Danner and Mrs. Clara Danner née Evans. Is that correct? One of Danner's lawyers stood. Yes, Your Honor, my client seeks custody of his stepchildren, Thomas and Annie Evans, who were removed from his care without consent. Removed. They ran away because he beat them. Elias couldn't keep quiet. The judge's eyes snapped to him. And you are Elias Grady, Your Honor. The children came to me for help. I see. And Mrs. Danner, what do you have to say about this? Clara stood slowly, pain evident in every movement. The room fell silent. Your Honor, She paused, and Elias could see her gathering herself. I want to drop all charges against my husband. The room erupted. The judge banged his gavel. Order, Mrs. Danner, you're saying you want to return to your husband? Yes, Your Honor. I was confused, hurt. I said things I didn't mean, did things I shouldn't have. But Rufus is my husband. The children need a father. I want to go home. Elias's gut clenched. She was selling it too well. What if the judge believed her completely? What if Danner stood a smirk on his face? See, Your Honor, just like I said, Woman got hysterical, made wild accusations. Now she's come to her senses. Is that true, Mrs. Danner? The judge's voice was gentle. Did you make false accusations? Clara looked down. Yes, Your Honor. I was upset. I wasn't thinking clearly. And the injuries? The judge gestured to her face. How did you come by those? I fell down the stairs. It was an accident. The judge's eyes narrowed. You fell. Yes, Your Honor. And your children's injuries, they fell too. Clara hesitated. This was it. The moment. Yes, Your Honor. We had an accident. All of us. It was... Stop. The word came from Thomas. Everyone turned. The boy stood in the back of the courtroom, Martha trying to pull him down. Thomas, sit. No, Miss Martha, I can't. I can't let Mama lie. The judge looked surprised. Young man, what are you doing here? I'm Thomas Evans, Your Honor, Clara's son, and she's lying. She didn't fall. Mr. Danner beat her, beat all of us. I saw it. His voice cracked. I tried to stop him and he laughed while he hit my mama. Clara made a sound like she'd been struck. Thomas, no. But Thomas wasn't done. Mama's only saying she wants to go back because she thinks it'll protect us. But it won't. He'll just hurt her again. He'll hurt all of us again. And one day he won't stop until we're all dead. The courtroom was silent. Danner's face had gone purple with rage. That boy's lying, he shouted. He's a lying little... Careful, Mr. Danner. The judge's voice was cold. That's a child you're speaking about. He's my child, my stepson. I have the right. You have the right to discipline, not to brutalize. The judge turned to Clara. Mrs. Mouse, Danner, is what your son says true? Clara looked at Thomas, tears streaming down her face. Then she looked at Danner, at Elias, at the judge. Yes, the word was barely a whisper. Yes, it's true. He beat me, beat my children. I was trying to protect them by going back, but Thomas is right. He'll just do it again. Danner lunged toward her. You lying bitch. He didn't make it 2 steps before Elias hit him, one clean punch to the jaw that dropped him like a stone. The courtroom erupted again. The judge was banging his gavel, shouting for order. The lawyers were yelling. Martha was holding Thomas, who was sobbing. When order was finally restored, the judge's expression was like granite. Mr. Danner, you just assaulted your wife in my courtroom. Mr. Grady, you just assaulted Mr. Danner. I should hold you both in contempt. He paused. But I'm not going to, because Mr. Grady was protecting a woman from her abuser, which is more than the rest of us did. He turned to Danner's lawyers. Your client is denied custody, permanently. He is to have no contact with Mrs. Evans or her children. If he violates this order, I'll have him arrested. Your Honor, you can't. I can and I have. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down with finality. Elias helped Clara to her feet. She swayed and he caught her, holding her steady. It's over, he said softly. It's over. But as they walked out of the courthouse, Elias saw Danner's face, saw the rage there, the promise of revenge. It wasn't over, not yet. They made it halfway to Martha's place before Elias saw the dust cloud rising behind them. 3 riders, maybe 4, coming fast. Clara, get down in the wagon bed, cover yourself with the blankets. She didn't argue, just did as he said, her face pale with understanding. Thomas and Annie huddled beside her, silent and terrified. Elias kept the horses moving at a steady pace, his hand resting on the rifle. The riders closed the distance quickly, 4 of them. He recognized 2 from Danner's crew. The other 2 wore badges. His stomach sank. They pulled up alongside the wagon, the lead deputy raising his hand. Hold up there, Grady. Elias pulled the horses to a stop. Something I can help you with, Deputy Carson. Carson was a lean man with a drooping mustache and eyes that never quite met yours, straight on. His companion was younger, newer to the badge, and looked uncomfortable. Judge Blackwell wants you back at the courthouse. Says there's been a complaint filed. What kind of complaint? Assault. Mr. Danner says you attacked him unprovoked in the courtroom. Elias almost laughed. Unprovoked? That's rich. Nevertheless, you need to come with us. Can't do that. Got a wounded woman and 2 children need to get home. Carson's hand moved to his gun. Wasn't a request, Grady. The 2 ranch hands had spread out flanking the wagon. Smart. Cut off any escape route. Deputy the judge was right there. He saw what happened. Saw Danner lunge at his wife. I was protecting her. That's for the judge to decide. Now you can come peaceful or we can make this difficult. Elias weighed his options. He could fight. Probably take down Carson and the young deputy before the ranch hands drew. But then what? He'd be a fugitive. Clara and the children would be alone, unprotected. All right, I'll come. But the woman and children go on to Martha's place. You got no cause to stop them. Carson considered this. Fine, but we're keeping your rifle. Elias handed it over his jaw tight. He climbed down from the wagon and pulled Thomas aside. You drive the wagon. Take your mama and sister straight to Martha's. Don't stop for anyone. You understand? Thomas nodded, his young face set with determination. What about you? I'll be fine. Just take care of them. Mr. Grady. Clara's voice came from under the blankets. Don't let them. I'll be fine, Clara. Get yourself home. Rest. I'll be back before you know it. He said it with more confidence than he felt. They put him on a horse and headed back to town, Carson and the young deputy. In front, the 2 ranch hands behind. Nobody spoke. The only sound was hoofbeats and the occasional creak of saddle leather. When they reached the courthouse, Elias saw immediately that something was wrong. Too many people gathered outside. Too much tension in the air. Danner stood on the courthouse steps, his arm still in a sling, a fresh bruise blooming on his jaw where Elias had hit him. Beside him stood a man Elias didn't recognize. Tall, silver-haired, expensive suit. Power radiated off him like heat off summer stone. That's him, Mr. Cartwright. That's the man who assaulted me. Cartwright. So the old man himself had come down from his ranch. This was worse than Elias thought. Samuel Cartwright owned half the county and controlled most of the rest. His word was law in these parts, more so than any judge or sheriff. Mr. Grady, Cartwright's voice was smooth, cultured. I understand you've been causing problems for my foreman. Your foreman's been beating women and children. I'd call that the problem. That's a domestic matter between husband and wife, not your concern. It became my concern when those children showed up at my door, bleeding and terrified. Cartwright stepped closer, and Elias could see the cold calculation in his eyes. This was a man who'd built an empire through ruthlessness and didn't tolerate challenges to his authority. Let me be clear, Mr. Grady. Rufus Danner works for me, has for 15 years. He's a good foreman, keeps my men in line, gets results. What he does with his wife is his business, even if he kills her. Even then, the law gives a man rights over his household. You'd do well to remember that. Elias felt rage building in his chest, hot and dangerous. The law also says I can defend someone in danger. Judge Blackwell agreed with me. Judge Blackwell. Cartwright's smile was thin. Yes, well, the good judge and I had a conversation after you left. He's reconsidering his ruling. Reconsidering, he can do whatever I tell him to do, just like everyone else in this county. Cartwright's eyes hardened. Including you. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize to Mr. Danner. You're going to return custody of those children to him, and you're going to go back to your ranch and mind your own business. No. The word hung in the air, simple, final. Cartwright's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. No, those children aren't going back to him. Clara isn't going back to him. You can threaten me all you want, but it won't change that. I'm not threatening you, Mr. Grady. I'm telling you how things are going to be. You refuse, there will be consequences. Like what? You'll have your bought sheriff arrest me, go ahead. At least in jail, I'll know Clara and the children are with Martha, safe from your pet monster. Danner stepped forward, his face twisted with rage. You got no right. I got every right. Those children came to me. Clara came to me. That makes it my business. Cartwright held up a hand, stopping Danner. You're a stubborn man, Grady. I respect that. But stubbornness without sense is just foolishness. He paused. I'll make this simple. You want to protect the woman and children? Fine. Buy them from me. Elias stared at him. Buy them? The marriage certificate makes them Danner's property. Danner works for me, so in essence, they're mine. You want them, pay me what they're worth. People aren't property. Everything's property if you know how to value it. So what's it worth to you? Their freedom, their safety. Put a price on it. Elias's mind raced. This was insane, buying human beings like cattle. But if it got Clara and the children away from Danner, away from Cartwright's influence, how much? Cartwright smiled. $2,000. The number hit like a physical blow. $2,000. Elias had maybe 300 to his name. His ranch was worth something, but not enough. Not nearly enough. I don't have that kind of money. Then I guess you don't want them badly enough. Cartwright turned to leave. Wait. Elias's voice stopped him. Give me time. I can get it. How much time? 2 weeks. Maybe 3. Cartwright laughed. 3 weeks. And what happens to them in the meantime? You think I'm going to let Danner sit idle while you scramble for money? He shook his head. No, you've got 3 days. After that, Danner takes his family back, and if you interfere, I'll have you shot for trespassing. 3 days isn't enough. Then you'd better work fast. Cartwright walked to his carriage. Oh, and Grady, don't think about running with them. I've got men watching every road out of the county. You try to leave, they'll stop you. Permanently. The carriage pulled away, leaving Elias standing in the street with Danner and the deputies. Danner stepped close, his breath hot and sour. 3 days, Grady, then they're mine again, and this time nobody's going to hear them scream. Elias's fist clenched, but Carson put a hand on his shoulder. Don't, he's baiting you. You touch him now, Cartwright will have you hanged. Danner laughed and walked away, the 2 ranch hands following. Carson waited until they were gone, then spoke quietly. You got a plan, Grady. You care. The deputy glanced at his younger companion, then back to Elias. I got daughters. What Danner did to that woman. He shook his head. That ain't right, but I also got a job and a family to feed. I can't go against Cartwright openly, but you can look the other way. Carson met his eyes. For 3 days, I can be real bad at my job. Real bad at finding folks who might not want to be found. It wasn't much, but it was something. Appreciate it. Don't thank me. Just whatever you're planning, do it quick. After 3 days, Cartwright will have every man in the county looking for them, and I won't be able to help. Elias rode back to Martha's place, his mind spinning. $2,000 in 3 days. It was impossible. His ranch might fetch $800 if he could find a buyer. His cattle another $200, maybe 3. That still left him $1,000 short, unless he thought about the cash his father had buried on the property. Gold coins from the California rush, back when the old man had been young and lucky. Elias had never touched it, never even checked if it was still there. His father had made him swear to save it for emergencies only. This qualified. He reached Martha's place just after dark. Clara was on the porch, wrapped in blankets, despite the pain it must have cost her to walk outside. She stood when she saw him. What happened? He dismounted and told her everything. Watched her face go from hope to despair to something harder, angrier. Buying us like livestock. Her voice shook. I won't be bought, Elias. I won't. It's not real, Clara. It's just a game. Cartwright thinks money solves everything, so we play along, pay his price, and then you're free, legally free. But $2,000, I can get it, maybe. There's gold buried on my property, if it's still there, if it's worth enough, and if it's not. Elias looked at her, at Thomas and Annie peering out from behind her skirts. Then we run. Take you so far, Cartwright can't reach you. He said he's watching the roads. Then we don't take roads. Martha came out, wiping her hands on her apron. You planning what I think you're planning depends on what you think I'm planning. Running them through the mountains, taking the old Shoshone Trail over the pass. Elias nodded slowly. It's rough country, dangerous this time of year, but Cartwright's men won't follow. They're not stupid enough to try that trail in October. You might not be stupid, but you're crazy. That trail killed 3 men last winter. The weather turns up there, you'll freeze to death before you make it to the other side. It's a last resort. If I can get the gold, if. Martha cut him off. That's a big if, Elias. Your father's been dead 6 years. Someone could have found that cash, could have dug it up and spent it long ago. Nobody knew about it except me. You sure about that? He wasn't, but he didn't have a choice. I need to go check, tonight. Can you watch them while I'm gone? Martha nodded. Go, but Elias, be careful. Cartwright's got eyes everywhere. He finds out what you're up to, he'll move up that deadline. Elias rode out an hour later, taking the long way around to his ranch. The night was cold and clear, stars sharp as broken glass overhead. He kept to the shadows, watching for riders, but saw no one. His cabin sat dark and empty. Strange how quickly it had stopped feeling like home. Maybe it never really had been. Maybe it had just been a place to hide from the world. He went straight to the barn and started digging behind the third stall from the left. The dirt was hard-packed and his shoulders ached by the time he hit wood. His father's old ammunition box wrapped in oilcloth. His hands shook as he pulled it out and unwrapped it. Empty, no gold, no coins, just a note in his father's handwriting. Sold to pay off the mortgage. Sorry, son. Sometimes survival matters more than security. Use the land well. Elias sat back on his heels, staring at the empty box. His last hope gone. Sold years ago for debts he didn't even know existed. $2,000. Might as well be 2 million. He was still sitting there when he heard the horse approaching. His hand went to his gun, but it was too late. The rider was already at the barn door. Don't shoot, it's me. Thomas stepped into the lamplight, breathing hard. What the hell are you doing here? You're supposed to be with your mama. She's asleep. Miss Martha's watching. I snuck out. The boy walked closer. I heard what Mr. Cartwright said about the money. Thomas, go back. I can help. I know where money is. Elias stood. What are you talking about? Mr. Danner, he's got money hidden, lots of it. I saw him bury it behind the barn at our old place. Must be $1,000, maybe more. You're sure? Yes, sir. He didn't know I was watching. He came home drunk one night, dug a hole, put in a box, just like that one. Thomas pointed to his father's empty cash. Said something about keeping it safe from thieving women. Elias's mind raced. Danner's money. It was perfect. Poetic, even. Using the bastard's own gold to buy freedom from him. But it was also dangerous. Thomas, if Danner catches us stealing from him, it's not stealing if it's payment right. You said Mr. Cartwright wants $2,000. If we give him Danner's money, that's just... The boy searched for the word. Justice. Elias almost smiled. The kid had a point. It's still risky. If we get caught, we won't. I know the place. I know where Danner keeps watch. I can get us in and out without him knowing. Elias studied the boy's face. He was 9 years old. Should be playing with wooden horses, not planning midnight raids on violent men's property. But life didn't care what should be. It only cared about what was. All right, but we do this my way. You follow my lead, and if I say run, you run. Understand? Yes, sir. And your mama can't know, not until it's done. She'd never forgive me for putting you in danger. She doesn't have to know, not if it works. They rode out together, two shadows in the darkness. The old Henderson place, Clara's place, Danner's place now, was quiet. A single lamp burned in the main house. Danner would be in there nursing his wounded shoulder and his wounded pride. Elias and Thomas approached from the north using the tree line for cover. The barn sat apart from the house, dark and silent. Where exactly? Elias whispered. Thomas pointed. Behind the barn, near the old water trough, 3 feet down. They dismounted and moved carefully. Every sound seemed amplified, the creak of saddle leather, the soft thud of boots on dirt, their own breathing. Elias found the spot and started digging. The ground was softer here, recently turned. Someone had been at it, not long ago. Danner may be checking his cash. His shovel hit metal with a soft clunk. He cleared the dirt away and pulled out a steel box, heavier than his father's had been. Inside, wrapped in canvas, were gold coins and paper money, a lot of it. "How much you figure?" Thomas whispered, son. Elias did a quick count in the lamplight. 1,500, maybe 16. "Is that enough?" "With what I've got saved, yeah, it's enough." A door slammed. They both froze. Footsteps coming toward the barn. Elias grabbed Thomas and pulled him behind the water trough, covering the boy's mouth with his hand. Through a crack in the wood, he could see Danner walking toward them, a bottle in his good hand. The man was drunk, stumbling, talking to himself. "Think they can just take what's mine, my wife, my money, my—" He stopped, squinting at the ground, at the fresh dirt, at the hole where his cash had been. For a moment he just stood there, swaying. Then he roared, "Who's there who took my money?" He drew his gun with his good hand and fired blindly into the darkness. The shot went wide, but Thomas jerked in fear, making a sound. Danner spun toward them. Come out, or I'll burn this whole goddamn barn down with you in it." Elias made a decision. He stood, putting himself between Danner and the boy. "Just me, Danner, just me." Danner's eyes went wild when he recognized him. "Grady, should have known. Come for more than my wife, have you? Come to rob me too." "Not robbery, payment. Cartwright wants $2,000 for Clara and the children. I'm taking what's owed." "The hell you are." Danner raised his gun, but his hand was shaking. Drunk and injured, his aim was worse than usual. Elias's hand went to his own gun. "Don't. Give me my money, Grady. Give it back or You'll what, shoot me, go ahead. But then Cartwright gets nothing and Clara stays free. Your choice." Danner's face twisted with rage and indecision. Behind Elias, Thomas was perfectly still, barely breathing. You can't just take—" "I just did, and in 3 days I'm giving it to Cartwright. Then Clara and those children are legally mine. And you—" Elias's voice went cold. "You'll have nothing. No wife, no money, no power over them ever again. I'll kill you, I swear to God I'll kill you. You're welcome to try, but right now you're drunk, you're injured, and you're outnumbered. So put the gun down and walk away, while you still can." For a long moment, Danner just stood there, his gun wavering. Then, with a scream of frustration, he fired. The bullet went high, nowhere near Elias, but it spooked the horses. Thomas's mount bolted, and the boy, still crouched behind the trough, panicked and ran after it. "Thomas, no!" Danner saw him, saw the boy running, and he smiled. "Well now, if it isn't my little stepson, come to rob your pa, have you?" He swung the gun toward Thomas. Elias drew and fired in one smooth motion. The bullet hit Danner's gun hand, and the weapon flew into the darkness. Danner screamed and fell to his knees. "Thomas, get the horses!" Elias kept his gun trained on Danner. "Now!" The boy ran. Elias could hear him calling the horses, his voice high with fear. Danner looked up at him, cradling his bleeding hand. "You shot me again. You shot me again, you son of a bitch." "Yeah, and I'll keep shooting you until you understand. They're not yours anymore. They never really were. You just happened to be there, and Clara was desperate enough to think you were the answer. She was nothing before me. Nothing, a widow with 2 brats and no prospects. I gave her a home, gave those kids a father. You gave them nightmares and scars. That's all you gave them." Thomas returned with the horses, and Elias mounted, quickly pulling the boy up behind him. "You'll pay for this," Danner shouted after them. "Cartwright will hunt you down, all of you. Maybe, but for 3 days we've got the law on our side, and 3 days is all I need." They rode hard for Martha's place. Behind them they could hear Danner still screaming threats into the night. When they finally reached safety, Clara was awake and standing on the porch, her face pale with worry. "Thomas, where have you been? I woke up and you were gone." She stopped when she saw the steel box under Elias's arm. What did you do? Thomas climbed down from the horse, walking to his mother. We got the money, Mama. We got enough to buy our freedom. Freedom isn't bought, baby. She looked at Elias. What did you do? What I had to. Took Danner's cash. $1,600. Combined with what I've got, it's enough. You stole from him. Yeah. He'll come after you. After all of us. Let him try. Elias dismounted, his legs shaky from adrenaline. Clara, in 3 days, you'll be free. Legally. Cartwright gets his blood money and you get to walk away. Take your children. Start over somewhere Danner can't reach you. And you, what happens to you? He hadn't thought that far ahead. Hadn't let himself think beyond getting Clara and the children to safety. I'll manage. You'll manage. She laughed, but it was bitter. You'll give up everything, your money, your peace, maybe your life for people you barely know, and you think you'll just manage. Clara, no. She walked toward him, every step costing her pain. You don't get to do this. Don't get to sacrifice everything and then pretend it's nothing. I'm not pretending anything, You're just what? Playing hero, trying to make up for your wife and daughter by saving us. The words hit like bullets. Elias stepped back. Isn't it? Her eyes were fierce. You've been dead for 6 years, Elias. Dead and buried alongside them. Now you're trying to crawl back to life by saving people who can't be saved. But we're not them. We're not your second chance. I know that. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're trying to buy redemption, and you can't. You can't pay for what you lost. You can't fix what's broken inside you by fixing us. Elias turned away. She was wrong. She had to be wrong. This wasn't about his wife and daughter. This was about doing what was right. About protecting people who needed protection. Wasn't it, Mama? Thomas's voice was quiet. Don't. Clara looked at her son, then back at Elias. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. I'm sorry. That was cruel. You've done nothing but help us, and She stopped. I'm just scared. Scared that this won't work. Scared that even with the money, Cartwright will find a way to take us back. Scared that you'll get hurt because of us. Elias faced her again. I made you a promise. I'm keeping it. At what cost? Whatever it takes. They stood there in the moonlight, two broken people trying to figure out how to be whole again. Martha came out, breaking the moment. You two done with your heart-to-heart because we got planning to do. 3 days isn't much time. She was right. 3 days to get the money to Cartwright. 3 days to make sure the transaction was legal and binding. 3 days to get Clara and the children somewhere safe before Danner recovered enough to come after them. 3 days to change everything. They spent the rest of the night planning. Martha would take the money to Cartwright in the morning, negotiate the terms. Elias would stay with Clara and the children, keep them hidden. Once the deal was done, once the papers were signed, they'd move fast. Get Clara and the children on a stage, heading east, away from Wyoming, away from Danner and Cartwright and all of this. As the sky began to lighten, Clara pulled Elias aside. Earlier, what I said was true, at least partly. He met her eyes. Maybe I am trying to fix something in myself by helping you, but that doesn't make it wrong, doesn't make you any less worth saving. I don't want to be saved, Elias. I want to be free. There's a difference. I know. Do you? Because saving someone means you're above them. You're the hero. They're the victim. But freedom means we're equals. Means we both get to choose what comes next. Elias thought about that. About the difference between saving and freeing. About the weight of responsibility versus the gift of choice. So what do you choose, Clara? What comes next for you? She looked toward the house where her children slept. I choose them, always them. Everything I've done, every choice I've made, it's been for them. Even marrying Danner. Even that, I thought. Her voice broke. I thought they needed a father, thought I couldn't do it alone, but I was wrong. Better to struggle alone than to live with a monster. You're not alone anymore, she turned to him. What are you saying? He didn't know. Didn't know what he was offering or what she wanted to hear, just knew that the thought of them leaving, of going east, while he stayed here, it hurt, more than he'd thought possible. I'm saying, he stopped, started again. I'm saying that when this is over, when you're free, you don't have to go east. You could stay, here, with you. The words hung between them. If you wanted, the cabin's not much, but it's safe, quiet, room for the children, and I could, he swallowed hard, I could help, with the farm, with whatever you needed. Clara was quiet for so long he thought he'd made a terrible mistake. Then she reached out and took his hand. Ask me again in 3 days, when I'm free, when I can choose without fear hanging over me. Ask me then, and I'll give you an answer. And if I don't ask, then I'll ask you. The sun broke over the horizon, washing everything in gold. A new day, 3 days left, 3 days to freedom, or 3 days to disaster. Only time would tell which. Martha left at first light with the steel box tucked under her coat and a shotgun across her lap. Elias watched her wagon disappear down the road, taking with it their last hope of a peaceful resolution. Clara stood beside him on the porch, her hand finding his without either of them acknowledging it. What if Cartwright refuses? What if the money's not enough? Then we run, tonight. I know a trail through the mountains rough, but Cartwright's men won't follow. In my condition, Elias, I can barely walk to the outhouse without wanting to scream. Then I'll carry you. She squeezed his hand. You can't carry all of us. Watch me. They went inside where Thomas and Annie were eating breakfast. The children looked up, questions in their eyes. Is Miss Martha going to fix everything? Annie asked, her voice small. Clara sat down carefully, pulling her daughter close. She's going to try, sweetheart. And if she can't, Thomas answered before Clara could, then Mr. Grady has another plan. He always has another plan. The boy said it with such certainty that Elias felt the weight of it. This child's faith in him, this family's dependence on his ability to protect them. He thought about what Clara had said the night before, about the difference between saving and freeing, about being equals instead of hero and victim. But right now, with Cartwright's deadline hanging over them and Danner nursing his wounds, somewhere out there, equality felt like a luxury they couldn't afford. The morning dragged on. Elias cleaned his guns, checked the ammunition, planned escape routes in his head. Clara tried to rest but kept getting up, pacing, despite the pain, unable to sit still. Thomas played with Annie, but Elias could see the boy watching the windows, listening for riders. It was nearly noon when they heard the wagon returning. Elias was out the door before it stopped his hand on his gun, but it was just Martha alone, her face grim. Well, she climbed down slowly, and Elias saw the paper in her hand. Legal paper with seals and signatures. He took the money, all of it, even had his lawyer draw up papers. She handed them to Elias. It's done. Clara and the children are legally yours now. Cartwright's exact words were, tell Grady he's bought himself a widow and 2 brats. Hope they're worth the price. Clara came out leaning heavily on the doorframe. What does that mean, legally mine? Martha looked uncomfortable. The papers say Elias purchased you from Danner's claim, like property. It's not right, but it's legal. You're no longer Danner's wife in the eyes of the law. You're... She stopped. I'm what? Under Elias's guardianship, until such time as you choose to leave or... Martha glanced at Elias. Or marry him. The words hung in the air like smoke. Clara's face went white. I'm property again, just different owner. No. Elias stepped forward. No, that's not. I'll tear up these papers right now if that's what you want. This was just to get Cartwright off your back, to make it legal so Danner couldn't reclaim his property. And now you can't either because I'm yours. Her voice shook. This is what you bought with Danner's money, the right to own me. Clara, please don't. She turned and walked back inside, every step rigid with pain and fury. Thomas stood in the doorway, his young face confused. What's wrong with Mama? Elias couldn't answer. Didn't know how to explain that he'd just traded one kind of bondage for another, even if his intentions had been good. Martha touched his arm. She'll come around. It's a lot. Give her time. We don't have time. Cartwright's got his money, but that doesn't mean Danner's going to accept this. He'll come. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but he'll come. Then we'd better be ready. They spent the afternoon fortifying Martha's ranch. Elias showed Thomas how to load the rifles, how to bar the doors and windows. The boy learned quickly, his hands steady despite his age. Annie helped Clara roll bandages and prepare supplies. The little girl was quieter than usual, sensing the tension. "Is Mr. Danner coming back?" she asked at one point. Clara stopped what she was doing. "I don't know, baby." "If he does, will Mr. Grady stop him?" Yes, he will. Because we're his now. Like the papers say." Clara's hands clenched. "No, Annie. Because he's a good man, because he promised to keep us safe, not because of any papers." But the words felt hollow, even as she said them. Evening came with no sign of trouble. They ate a quiet supper, the children picking at their food. Afterward, Martha took them to her room to settle them for the night. Elias and Clara were left alone at the kitchen table. "I'm sorry," his voice was rough. "I didn't think I should have asked you first, should have found another way." "Another way to what? Buy my freedom. There is no other way." "Elias, we both know that. Cartwright made sure of it. But the papers are just papers. They don't mean anything unless we let them." She looked at him finally, her eyes tired. "Do you think you own me?" "No. God, no." "Then you don't. Simple as that." She paused. "But Elias, you need to understand something. I'm not going to trade one prison for another, even if the new one has kinder walls. When this is over, when Danner's truly gone, I need to stand on my own. Need to know I can. I know. Do you? Because it's easy to say you're helping. Easy to say you just want to protect. But protection can become control so fast you don't even see it happening." Elias thought about his wife, about how he'd tried to protect her from the fever, kept her isolated, wouldn't let the children near for fear of contagion, and she died anyway alone, except for him never getting to say goodbye to their daughter. "You're right. He stopped, started again. "My wife. When she got sick, I thought I was protecting her, protecting Emma, but really, I was just trying to control something I had no power over, and it didn't save anyone, just made their last days lonelier." Clara reached across the table, her hand covering his. "I'm not her, Elias." "I know. And this isn't then. We get to choose different, better." "How?" "By being honest. By me telling you when I need help and when I need space. By you asking instead of assuming. By both of us remembering that love," she stopped the word hanging between them, "that caring about someone doesn't mean owning them." Love. She'd said love. Maybe by accident, maybe not. Before Elias could respond, Thomas appeared in the doorway. "Riders coming, 3 of them." Elias was up and at the window in seconds. 3 horses approaching slow in the moonlight. He recognized the lead rider immediately, Deputy Carson. "Stay inside, all of you." Elias stepped out onto the porch, rifle in hand. Carson and his 2 companions stopped at the fence line. "Kind of late for a social call, Deputy." Carson raised his hands, showing they were empty. "Not here to cause trouble, Grady. Just thought you should know Danner's organizing. Got about a dozen men, maybe more, planning to come for the woman and children tomorrow night." "Tomorrow? But Cartwright has his money. The deal's done." "Deal's done, yeah, but Danner's pride isn't. He's telling anyone who'll listen that you stole from him, assaulted him, took what was his, getting men riled up, talking about justice and defending a man's rights to his household." Elias felt cold dread settle in his gut. A dozen men, that's practically a lynch mob. "That's exactly what it is, and Grady," Carson's voice dropped, "I can't stop it. Sheriff's looking the other way, says it's a domestic matter, none of his concern. Some of the men riding with Danner are Cartwright's boys. This has his blessing, even if he won't say it outright. He got his money. What more does he want?" "Example. You embarrassed him, Grady. Made him look weak in front of the whole county. Man like Cartwright can't let that stand. Martha had come out, her shotgun ready. So what are you saying, Carson? We should run. The deputy looked uncomfortable. I'm saying you've got maybe 24 hours before they come. Do with that what you will, but if you're still here tomorrow night. He didn't finish the sentence. Didn't have to. Carson. Elias's voice stopped him as he started to turn to Marta's horse. Why are you telling us this? Why risk your job, maybe your life, to warn us? The deputy was quiet for a moment. Because I got daughters, like I said. And maybe I'm tired of watching men like Danner get away with it. Can't fight him openly, but I can do this much. He tipped his hat. Good luck, Grady. You're gonna need it. They watched the deputies ride away, disappearing into the darkness. Martha spoke first. We run tonight. Get Clara and the children as far from here as possible. Run where? Clara had come out, the children behind her. Carson said Cartwright's men are everywhere. We won't make it 10 miles. The mountain trail. Elias turned to her. It's dangerous, but it's the only way Cartwright's men won't follow. Mama can't make that ride. Thomas stepped forward. She can barely sit a horse on flat ground. Mountain trail will kill her. The boy was right. Elias had seen men die on that trail in good weather with perfect health. Clara, injured and weak, wouldn't survive the first night. Then we make a stand here. Martha's voice was firm. Fortify the house. Make them pay for every inch they take. Against a dozen men, maybe more. Elias shook his head. That's suicide. Better than running, better than dying in the mountains. Clara was looking at her children, her face torn with impossible choices. Run and likely die in the cold. Stay and certainly die in the fight. No good options, no safe path. There's another way. Everyone turned to look at Elias. We don't run, we don't hide. We go to them first. Go to them. Are you insane? Maybe, but think about it. They're planning to come here tomorrow night, expecting to find us scared and barricaded. What if we're not here? What if we hit them first on ground? We choose... Martha was shaking her head. That's 12 against 3. Not if we even the odds. Not if we get help. From who everyone in this county either works for Cartwright or is too scared to cross him. Elias thought about Patterson, about the families Clara had stopped at before sending her children to him, about all the people who'd turned their backs when she needed them most. What if we make them choose, make them pick a side? How? By showing them what Danner really is, what Cartwright's really protecting. He turned to Clara. You willing to show them your scars? Tell your story to the whole town. She paled. You want me to what? Stand up in front of everyone and show them the truth. Show them what they allowed to happen by looking the other way. Shame them into helping. That's a hell of a gamble, Martha said. Shame doesn't always lead to action. Sometimes it just leads to more looking away. You got a better idea. Nobody did. Clara straightened despite the pain her jaw set. All right, we try it your way. But Elias, if this doesn't work, if they turn us away again, then we make for the mountains tonight, and whatever happens, happens. They rode into town at dawn, all of them together, Clara on a horse with Annie in front of her, Thomas riding with Elias, Martha bringing up the rear with her shotgun. The main street was empty this early, but Elias could see curtains moving in windows, people watching. Word would spread fast. They stopped in front of the church. Elias dismounted and helped Clara down, steadying her when she swayed. You sure about this? She nodded, her face pale but determined. They went inside. The church was empty except for Reverend Matthews preparing for Sunday service. He looked up, surprise crossing his face. Mrs. Danner, I heard you were... He stopped, seeing her injuries in the morning light streaming through the windows. Dear God, not Mrs. Danner anymore, Reverend. The marriage was dissolved. Clara's voice was steady. I need to borrow your church. Need to speak to the congregation. What now? Ring the bell, Reverend. Call them in, all of them. They need to see this, need to hear what their silence allowed. Matthews looked at Elias. What's this about Grady? It's about justice, Reverend, the kind you preach about on Sundays. Time to see if anyone actually believes in it. The Reverend hesitated, then walked to the bell rope. The sound rang out across the town, calling people to church on a weekday, summoning them to witness. They came slowly, curious, wary. Patterson arrived with his wife, other farmers, shop owners, the banker, people Clara had known her whole life, people who'd turned away when she needed them. When the pews were half full, Clara stepped to the front. She didn't hide her face, didn't try to cover the bruises. She let them see everything. You all know me, Clara Evans. Some of you knew my first husband, John. Good man, died too young, left me with 2 children and a failing farm. Her voice carried in the silent church. I was scared, desperate. When Rufus Danner offered to marry me to help with the farm, to be a father to my children, I said yes. I thought God had answered my prayers. She paused, letting them see her split lip, her blackened eyes. I was wrong. God didn't send Rufus Danner, the devil did. A murmur ran through the crowd. First time he hit me, he said it was my fault. Said I'd provoked him, said a wife needed to learn her place. I believed him, tried harder, did everything he asked, but it was never enough. The beatings got worse. The children... Her voice broke. He beat my children. 9-year-old boy tried to protect his mama and got his face smashed in for it. 6-year-old girl got kicked for crying too loud. Someone gasped. Elias saw it was Patterson's wife, her hand over her mouth. Clara continued. I came to some of you for help, knocked on doors, begged. You know what I was told. She looked directly at Patterson. That I'd made my bed, that I had to lie in it, that it was a husband's right to discipline his household. So I stopped asking, stopped hoping, just tried to survive one more day, one more beating. She pulled down the collar of her dress, showing the scars, burn marks, lash marks, evidence of sustained, deliberate cruelty. Then one night Danner came home drunk, beat me until I couldn't stand, started on the children. I knew if I didn't get them out, he'd kill them, maybe kill me too. So I sent them running, sent them to the one man I thought might help, Elias Grady. Every eye turned to Elias. He didn't turn them away, didn't say it wasn't his business. He took them in, tended their wounds. Then he came looking for me, found me dying in the woods, brought me back, faced down Danner and his men, got shot at, threatened, had his life put at risk over and over. And you want to know why? The congregation was silent, because he believes in something you all seem to have forgotten, that we protect the weak, that we stand up to bullies, that we don't let evil happen just because it's happening to someone else. He's not even from here, has no stake in this town, no ties to its people. But he did what all of you should have done, what any decent person would do. Clara's voice grew stronger. Tonight, Rufus Danner's coming, bringing a mob, planning to take me and my children back, planning to finish what he started, and I'm asking you, all of you, to decide. Do you let it happen? Do you look away again? Or do you finally stand up and say enough? Patterson stood. Elias' tensed hand moving to his gun. Mrs. Evans, Clara. The farmer's voice was thick with shame. When you came to my door that night, I told you. He stopped, unable to finish. I was wrong. I was a coward, and I'm sorry. Sorrier than you'll ever know. His wife stood beside him. We'll help, whatever you need. Another stood, then another. Not everyone, not even most, but enough. The blacksmith, a mountain of a man named Hayes. I'll stand with you. The widow Morrison, ancient and fierce. Got my late husband's rifle, still know how to use it. Young Jackson, barely old enough to shave. Danner's a bastard, always has been. Time someone put him down. Reverend Matthews stood last. This church stands for something, or it should. Count me in. Elias counted heads. 12. With him, Martha and Thomas, 15 against Danner's dozen. Not great odds, but better than before. Clara was crying now, but her voice stayed steady. Thank you all. But I need you to understand this isn't about revenge. This is about protection, about making sure no woman, no child has to live in fear like I did, like my babies did. She turned to Elias. Whatever happens tonight, I want you to know. You gave me something I thought I'd lost. You gave me hope, made me believe that good men still exist, that kindness isn't just weakness, that... She stopped, emotion overwhelming her. Elias stepped forward and took her hand. In front of everyone, let them see. You're not alone anymore, Clara. None of you are. We stand together or we fall together, but either way, we stand. They spent the day preparing. Hayes set up his smithy as a fallback position. Widow Morrison stockpiled ammunition. Jackson scouted the approaches to town looking for the best defensive positions. Martha pulled Elias aside mid-afternoon. You know, this could go bad, right, real bad. Danner's got nothing left to lose. Men like that are dangerous. I know. And if we lose, if he gets Clara and the children, he won't. But if he does, Elias looked at her, then I'll make sure they don't suffer. I promised Clara, whatever it takes. Martha nodded slowly, understanding what he meant, what he was prepared to do if it came to that. You love her, don't you? The question caught him off guard. Don't bother denying it. I see how you look at her, how you'd burn down the world to keep her safe. That's love, Elias. Maybe not the kind you had with Sarah, but love all the same. It's too soon, too complicated. I barely know her. You know her enough. Know what she's survived. Know what she's capable of. Sometimes that's enough to build on. Elias thought about Clara's question from days ago, about asking her when she was free, when she could choose without fear. After tonight, if we survive, I'll tell her. Good, because she needs to hear it, needs to know she's worth fighting for, worth loving. The sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Beautiful and terrible at the same time, they took up positions. Hayes at the smithy, Widow Morrison and Jackson on the rooftops, Patterson and the farmers spread out along the main street, Reverend Matthews in the church, rifle in hand, despite his vows. Elias, Martha, and Thomas stayed with Clara and Annie in the hotel, the most defensible building in town. They'll come soon. Thomas was watching the road, his young face set with determination. Yeah, Elias checked his rifle for the 10th time. They will. Clara was sitting with Annie humming a lullaby, the same one Elias remembered his wife singing to Emma. She looked up, catching his eye, smiled despite everything, and in that moment Elias knew with absolute certainty he was going to save her, save all of them, or die trying. The sound of hoofbeats echoed in the distance, growing louder, closer. Here they come, Thomas whispered. Elias moved to the window, counting riders. 15, no 20, more than Carson had said. Danner at the front, his face twisted with rage, even from this distance. This was it, the reckoning. Elias cocked his rifle and waited. The riders stopped 50 yards out, torches blazing in the twilight. Danner dismounted, favoring his wounded hand, his face visible in the firelight. Behind him, 20 men spread out in a rough line. Some Elias recognized as Cartwright's ranch hands. Others were locals who should have known better. Elias stepped out onto the hotel porch, rifle across his chest. Behind him, he heard Clara's sharp intake of breath. That's far enough, Danner. Danner's laugh was harsh and ugly. Look at this. The hero comes out to play. Where's my wife Grady? Where are my children? Not yours anymore. Cartwright got his money. Papers are signed. It's over. Over, Danner spat. You think a piece of paper changes anything? That woman is mine by God's law. Those brats are mine, and I'm taking them back. Hayes stepped out from the smithy, his massive frame blocking the street. No, you're not. Patterson emerged from the shadows, rifle ready. Go home, Danner. You're not wanted here. One by one, the townspeople revealed themselves. Widow Morrison on a rooftop, Jackson behind a water trough, the Reverend in the church doorway, all armed, all ready. Danner's face went purple with rage. You're all fools. Cartwright will hear about this. Every one of you will pay. Let him hear. Hayes's voice boomed. We're done looking the other way. Done letting men like you hide behind rights while you terrorize women and children. It ends tonight. You can't stop me. I got 20 men. You got, what, 15, and half of them old or green? Danner gestured to his mob. This town's mine. Always has been. Then you're going to have to take it. Elias's voice was cold. And it'll cost you blood. Question is whose? For a moment, nobody moved. The tension stretched tight as a wire ready to snap. Then one of Danner's men, the nervous ranch hand from the woods, stepped back. I didn't sign up for killing townspeople. Get back in line, Danner snarled. No. The man backed toward his horse. This is wrong. Beating a woman's one thing, but starting a war over it, count me out. Another followed, then another. 3 men peeling away, leaving 17, still bad odds, but getting better. Danner's hand went to his gun, the wounded one trembling. You're all traitors, every last one of you. No, Rufus! Clara's voice rang out clear and strong. She'd come to stand beside Elias, her children behind her. You're the traitor, to everything decent, to every vow you made, to the family you claim to want. Get back in that building, Elias said quietly. No, he needs to see this, needs to understand. She stepped forward into the torchlight. Let Danner see her face, her scars, everything he'd done. You broke me, Rufus. Beat me down until I thought I'd never stand again. But I'm standing now, and I'm telling you, you have no power over me anymore. The hell I don't. Danner drew his gun with his good hand. Everything happened at once. Elias fired the bullet, kicking up dirt at Danner's feet. Hayes charged forward with a roar. The townspeople opened up not to kill, but to scatter shots over heads, around feet, driving Danner's men back. The mob broke. Some ran for their horses, others dove for cover. Danner stood alone in the middle of the street, his gun pointing at nothing, his army dissolved. It's over, Danner. Elias walked toward him, rifle trained on the man's chest. Your men are gone. Your protection's gone. It's just you now, just you and the consequences of what you've done. Danner's gun wavered. I'll kill you. I swear to God, You'll what? Shoot me then. What, you think these people will let you walk away? You think Cartwright's going to protect a man who started a war he couldn't finish? Elias stopped 10 feet away. You've got 2 choices. Drop the gun and leave this county, or die right here in this street. Your call. For a long moment, Danner just stood there, his gun shaking. Elias could see the calculation in his eyes, the pride warring with survival instinct. Then movement behind Elias, fast. Thomas running into the street. You killed my father, my real father. The words froze everyone. Danner's face went slack with shock. What? I heard you. That night you came home drunk, bragging to your friends. You said you killed John Evans, said you made it look like an accident so you could take his farm, take his wife. Clara made a sound like she'd been gut shot. Thomas, that's not... He couldn't have... It's true, Mama. I heard him. He was drunk and laughing about it. Said Papa never saw it coming. Said he... The boy's voice broke. Said he pushed Papa off the cliff and watched him fall. The street erupted. Voices shouting, demanding answers. But Elias kept his eyes on Danner, watched the truth play across his face. The guilt. The twisted satisfaction. So what if I did? Danner's voice was defiant. Man was weak. Farm was failing. Someone had to take charge. I did what needed doing. You're a murderer. Clara's voice shook with rage. You killed my husband, beat his children. And you think you had a right. I had every right. That farm, that woman, those kids, they were wasted on him. I made them something, made them mine. You made them victims. Elias's finger tightened on the trigger. And now you're going to answer for it. Grady, don't. Reverend Matthews stepped forward. Don't make yourself a murderer too. Let the law handle this. The law, Elias laughed bitterly. The same law that let him beat Clara, that looked the other way while he terrorized a family. That law doesn't work for people like us, Reverend. Maybe not, but killing him makes you no better than he is. Elias knew the Reverend was right, knew that pulling the trigger would make him a killer, would stain his soul in ways he couldn't wash clean. But looking at Thomas's tear-stained face, at Annie clinging to her mother, at Clara's expression of betrayal and grief, his finger moved. A shot rang out, but not from Elias's gun. Danner crumpled, a red stain spreading across his chest. Behind him stood Deputy Carson, his service revolver smoking. What? Elias stared. Carson walked forward slowly. John Evans was my cousin, my friend. When he died, I suspected, but I couldn't prove anything, couldn't get anyone to listen. He looked down at Danner's body. Now I got a witness, got a confession. Far as I'm concerned, this was a lawful arrest of a murderer who resisted. Carson, I just did what should have been done years ago. The deputy turned to Clara. I'm sorry. Sorry I didn't see it sooner. Sorry I didn't protect you like John would have wanted. Clara was crying now, great heaving sobs. Not for Danner, for her first husband, for the truth finally revealed, for 6 years of living with her husband's killer. Elias went to her, gathered her into his arms. She collapsed against him and he held her while she broke apart. The other deputies arrived, drawn by the gunshots. Carson explained what happened, Danner's confession, the attempted violence, the lawful shooting. The townspeople backed him up. Even some of Danner's former men nodded, unwilling to defend a confessed murderer. By morning, it was official. Rufus Danner was dead, his crimes exposed, and Clara Evans was finally truly free. The days that followed were strange, quiet in a way that felt almost foreign after so much violence and fear. Clara stayed at Martha's while she healed the children, never far from her side. Elias found himself there most days, helping with chores, playing with Annie, teaching Thomas to fix the fence. It felt like family, like home. 3 weeks after Danner's death, Clara finally felt strong enough to ride. Elias took her to see her farm, the Henderson place, where all this had started. It looked different now, peaceful. The house needed work, but the bones were good. The land was fertile. With effort, it could thrive again. I can't go back here. Clara stood in the yard looking at the house. Too many ghosts, too many memories of him. Then don't. Sell it. Use the money to start fresh somewhere else. Where? Elias took a breath. I was thinking my cabin. It's not much, but there's room. Room for the children. Room for... He stopped suddenly, uncertain. Clara turned to face him. Room for what, Elias? For you. For all of you. If you wanted. I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other, but The words stuck in his throat. You what? I don't want you to leave. The admission came out raw and honest. Don't want to go back to that empty cabin and that quiet life and pretend I didn't spend 6 years just waiting to die. You and the children, you made me remember what living feels like, what having a purpose feels like. And I know you said you needed to stand on your own, needed to be free, and I respect that. But you want me to choose you? Yeah, I do. Clara was quiet for a long moment, her eyes searching his face. Do you love me, Elias? The question hung between them. I don't know if what I feel is love. Don't know if I remember what that's supposed to feel like. But I know when you're hurting, I hurt. When you smile, something in my chest loosens. When I think about you leaving, taking the children and going somewhere I can't follow, it feels like dying. So maybe it's not love. Or maybe it is, and I'm just too scared to call it that. Why scared? Because loving someone means losing them eventually. I learned that. Lost my wife, lost my daughter. Couldn't save them no matter how hard I tried. And if I love you, if I let myself love you and those children, and something happens, then you'll hurt. You'll grieve. You'll carry that weight like you've carried the weight of Sarah and Emma all these years. Clara stepped closer. But Elias, that's what love costs. It's the price we pay for caring about someone more than ourselves. And yes, it hurts. God, it hurts so much sometimes you think you can't breathe. But the alternative, living alone, keeping everyone at arm's length, protecting yourself from pain that's not living, that's just surviving. She took his hands in hers. You asked me once to ask you when I was free, when I could choose without fear. Well, I'm asking now, I'm choosing now, and I choose you, not because I need saving. Not because I'm weak or broken or desperate, but because you're good and kind and you make me believe in second chances, because my children love you, because when I think about the future, I want you in it. Elias felt something break open in his chest. 6 years of ice melting, 6 years of grief finally loosening its grip. You're sure? I'm terrified, but I'm sure, she smiled. Are you? He thought about it, really thought about what she was offering, a ready-made family, the noise and chaos of children, the vulnerability of loving again, the risk of loss, and underneath all that fear, hope, pure and bright and terrifying. Yeah, I'm sure. He kissed her, then gentle and careful of her healing injuries. She kissed him back, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. When they broke apart, she was crying, but smiling too. So what now? She asked. Now we go home, all of us, and we figure out how to be a family. Just like that, just like that. They told the children that evening at Martha's. Thomas listened quietly, his face serious. Annie bounced with excitement. Does this mean Mr. Grady's our papa now? The little girl asked. Elias knelt down to her level. If you want me to be, I can't replace your real father, won't even try, but I can be. He looked at Clara, then back to Annie. I can be someone who loves you, who will protect you, who will be there when you need me. Will you teach me to ride? Papa was going to teach me before he died. Elias's throat tightened. Yes, sweetheart, I'll teach you to ride. Annie threw her arms around his neck, and Elias held her, this tiny girl who'd walked through hell and still had hope. Thomas was harder. The boy hung back, his expression guarded. You don't have to call me anything you're not ready for, Elias said. Don't have to think of me as a father if that doesn't feel right. I'm just someone who cares about you and your mama and your sister. Someone who wants to be here if you'll let me. Thomas studied him for a long moment. Then, will you teach me to shoot real shooting, not just loading and cleaning? When you're older, when you're ready, I'm ready now. No, son, you're not, and that's okay. Being ready for that kind of responsibility, it takes time, takes growing up. But when you are ready, yeah, I'll teach you. Thomas nodded slowly. Okay, Mr. Grady. You can call me Elias if you want. The boy thought about it. Maybe later, when I'm used to it. Fair enough. They moved into Elias's cabin the following week. It was crowded at first, 4 people in a space meant for 1, but they made it work. Thomas and Annie took the back room. Clara and Elias took the main room, a blanket hung for privacy. It was strange at first learning to live together, learning each other's rhythms and habits. Clara cooked, transforming Elias's bachelor meals into real food. The children filled the silence with laughter and arguments and the simple noise of living. Elias taught Thomas to work the land to care for the animals, showed Annie how to ride just like he'd promised, sat with Clara on the porch in the evenings, her hand in his, watching the sunset paint the sky. One night, a month after they'd moved in, Clara woke him from a nightmare. He'd been dreaming of Sarah and Emma again, but different this time. In the dream, they'd been telling him it was okay to let go, okay to love again. You were calling their names, Clara whispered in the darkness. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. Don't be sorry. They were your family. They'll always be part of you. She found his hand under the blankets. But Elias, you're allowed to have this too, this new life, this new family. It doesn't erase them, doesn't mean you love them any less. I know, it just feels like you're betraying them. Yeah, you're not. Love isn't finite. It doesn't run out. You can love them and love us, can honor their memory and build a future with us. Both things can be true. Elias pulled her closer, burying his face in her hair. How'd you get so wise? Years of practice being broken, you learn things when you have to put yourself back together. They lay there in the darkness, holding each other, two broken people learning to be whole. Winter came hard that year. Snow piled high and the wind howled around the cabin, but inside there was warmth, laughter, life. Clara taught the children to read by lamplight, her voice soft and patient. Elias carved new horses for Annie, better than the old one in the back room. Thomas learned to play checkers and argued strategy with a seriousness that made them all smile. One evening, with the children asleep and the fire burning low, Clara started humming. The same lullaby she'd sung in Martha's place, the same one Sarah used to sing. Elias listened, and for the first time the memory didn't hurt. It just was. "Sing it," he said quietly. "Sing the words." Clara looked at him, understanding in her eyes. Then she sang, her voice clear and sweet in the quiet cabin. When she finished, Elias was crying, silent tears he didn't try to hide. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what? For letting me remember them without drowning, for making this place feel like a home again, for—" He stopped, started again. "For loving me when I didn't think I deserved to be loved." "Oh, Elias," she cupped his face in her hands. "You've always deserved love. You just needed to believe it." Spring arrived with green shoots pushing through melting snow. The land woke up, and so did they. They planted a garden together, all four of them, working the soil, fixed the fence, repaired the barn, made plans for the future. Patterson came by one day with seeds and an apology that still came hard. "Wanted you to have these, for the garden. And I wanted to say what I did, turning Clara away. I'll regret that till my dying day." Elias took the seeds. "She forgave you. Maybe it's time you forgave yourself." Other townspeople followed. Hayes brought tools. Widow Morrison brought preserves. Jackson brought lumber, all of them helping to build up what they'd once allowed to be torn down. The community was healing, slowly, imperfectly, but healing nonetheless. 1 year to the day after that first knock on his door, Elias stood on his porch and watched his family. Clara hanging laundry, her body finally free of pain. Thomas chopping wood, growing strong and tall. Annie chasing chickens, her laughter ringing out like bells. His family, not by blood, by choice, by the kind of love that was built in the trenches of shared trauma and emerged stronger for it. Clara caught him watching and smiled. "What are you thinking about?" "That night when they knocked on my door, when you sent them to me." She walked over, slipping her hand into his. "Best decision I ever made." "Why me, out of everyone? Why send them to me?" "Because I remembered you, remembered how you were kind without expectation, how you saw people really saw them, and I thought if there's one person in this world who might help two terrified children, it's him." I was right. I almost didn't open the door. "But you did." "Yeah, I did." Thomas called out, asking for help with the wood. Annie wanted to show them something she'd found, life pulling at them, demanding their attention. But before they went, Clara stopped him. "Elias, I love you. I don't think I've said it enough, so I'm saying it now. I love you." The words settled into him like warmth, like coming home. "I love you too," he said, and meant it, completely. They walked toward the children together, hand in hand. A family forged not in comfort, but in fire, not in ease, but in choosing each other over and over, despite the cost. Elias Grady had been alone for 6 years, had thought he'd never again know what it meant to belong, to be needed, to love and be loved in return. He'd been wrong, because sometimes salvation doesn't arrive in grand miracles. Sometimes it arrives in small hands knocking at your door, in a woman's trust that you'll do the right thing, in children who teach you that family isn't always blood. It's the people you choose to stand beside no matter what comes. That night, as they sat around the dinner table, all four of them together, safe and whole, Elias looked at each face, saw the love there, the belonging, the future they were building together, and he knew with absolute certainty that he would never leave them. Not now, not ever. They were his family, and he was theirs, bound not by papers or laws or anything as fragile as legal decree, but by something far stronger, the unbreakable choice to love each other through whatever darkness came, to stand together against any storm, and to prove day after day that the loneliest cowboy could find his way home if he was just brave enough to open the door when hope came knocking.